Hello everybody, welcome to Woodworking vlog number 28. So first off, straight away, I just want to say a big thank you to Peter. Now, I've never spoken to Peter, but he's been kind enough to send me some pretty incredible tools, and we'll share those with you in just a moment. Peter and I conversed a little bit on Facebook and Instagram, and very generously he wanted to share some of his hand tool collection with me, and the only thing I can do is maybe share some of that with you. Peter, if you're taking the time to watch this, thank you. And I've got some plans for some of this coming up for the end of the year, where I can hopefully let some other people use them as well. So yeah, I feel really privileged to use that. So I'll get you in real quick and we'll take a closer look at these. So first up here, I don't own a scrub plane, so Peter's kind of put that right. But one thing I love more than the scrub plane is this absolutely beautiful logo on that plane iron, a Goldenberg. I just think that's exquisite. You know, I'm all for modest tools and all the rest of it, but that logo for me is just absolutely to die for. Totally honest, I'm not into scrub planes particularly, but that's going to be a great one to experiment with when I've got the need. It needs a little bit of work here up front. The horn's a little loose, but we can sort that one out. But as you can see, very narrow iron, heavily cambered, but really aggressive stock removal. Here we've got a Steiner plane. Again, these are all tools that I'm a lot less familiar with. It's a double iron, and we've got the metal pin that runs through, and there's just a wedge that pushes through, so we don't have those kind of classic abutments that you see in kind of the normal wooden planes I've got. And I'm guessing that looks like it's a hornbeam sole on a beech body that's all attached with a very strong glue joint that's looks like that's a machine factory made. They feel very comfortable in the hand, and I do look forward to trying those out. And there's this very unique looking plane as well. This one is very, very interesting. It's got an adjustable mouth on a wooden plane that's controlled up here. That needs a little bit of truing up because that adjustable section is up higher, but again, a wooden sole plane, that's not going to take much to do. And it looks like a combination of maybe a hard wearing timber, like possibly a teak, then a strand of hornbeam, and then this wood at the top looks like it's possibly mahogany, back to hornbeam again there. And yeah, it feels comfortable. There got the screw adjustment. Again, it's a double iron plane, so that one's going to be really interesting to try out. There's no branding that I can see on this one, so if anyone recognizes that plane and has any information, be sure to let me know. I mean, this is just some next level stuff. You know, a lot of people, and rightly so, really appreciate a lot of the modern gauges made by people like Typemark and people, but you know, just look at the beauty there. And it's one of those things that once you really start looking, you start to really appreciate it. And yeah, sure, it's had some wear and tear, but it's an absolute delight of a gauge. What a mortise gauge that is. Really, really, really nice. I'll put that down as a bit of Victorian extravagance for sure. And then I don't know whether Peter had seen possibly the Atkins video I did where I restored that little back saw, which I'm very much enjoying using now. That one that had its handle shattered and was all broken. I've now got in my possession, thanks to Peter, a small panel saw, which is in pretty darn fine condition. That one's I think it's a 90th per inch, I'm not 100% sure, and a more generously sized hand saw, but they feel nice, light and comfortable. And like my back saw, they feel workmanlike. They don't feel too fussy, too pretentious, and they don't come with the fancy split nuts, just the basic screws. But I think if you're getting into doing a bit of saw restoration, that's kind of a good thing. It's a lot easier than dealing with the split nuts. So Peter, thank you, and I hope I can share these with a few people come later in the year, and we'll discuss that a bit later. So in addition to getting that fantastic gift, been doing a few other things. I've got a project on the go. I've had one of those things where you're trying to find the right project combination that works nicely with your time and you can get stuck into and you feel that you're properly plugged into. I had a few false starts few people out there, you might kind of identify with that. But yeah, I'm really rolling on that now, so that's really good. I'll bring you in and show you that. And also I've got the bandsaw set up, and you might have seen, a few of you, if you've taken the time to watch, and I don't blame you if you haven't, some of the YouTube shorts that I put up. If I'm just working along here in the shop, it's something quick where you can just think, well, I'm just doing this, I can demonstrate how effective a cheap bandsaw is or whatever. It's a way to keep a little bit of information coming out. But I'll just grab you over the bandsaw and just show you a couple of quick. As you know, or probably getting to know, I like a bit of value, but I think this bandsaw has been absolutely fantastic. So I've been prepping up some ash. That's all prepped up very nicely, and I'm working along on that at the moment. And this bandsaw has been able to cut that off the edge with no real stress. As long as you don't push it and you just let the saw do the work, it's just been really helpful. I've got like a 3 teeth per inch blade in there, 1/2 inch, and I think as long as your bandsaw is set well, I don't see that you need any kind of fancy blades. We never really use those at work. Just keep it sharp, well adjusted. And I think if you've used a handsaw and you felt that in your muscles, you've got a bit of mechanical sympathy, that you don't try and push timber this deep through a saw that quickly. You appreciate that saw's doing the work for you, so you give it a little bit of time, which is completely reasonable. I've got a very cheap dust extractor attached as well, which has done quite a good job actually. I still get the larger bits of sawdust coming off, but as for fine dust, it's been virtually eliminated, which is absolutely fantastic. And great thing about a bandsaw is it's such a small footprint, it takes up virtually no space, and yeah, delighted with that. And yeah, then onto the bench, which is as a project in progress bench should be. And I'm so lucky to have a bit of space in a garage where you can just come and think, right, okay, I'm finished there. One of the nightmares is if you don't have a set space, you're in a situation where if you've only got an hour, you get the tools out, you do a little bit, and then you put it down, and then you've got to clean everything away and tidy it up, and eventually that does get a bit soul destroying. But if you can be set and ready to go, yeah, helpful. Not really anything very interesting to report, but as I've been working along, with these bits of timber, I've been facing and edging them, planing them to width, and then cutting that thin strip off the edge and then planing them up to size. If anyone's interested, I found the number 5 was fantastic for that. I've then had to cut things down into smaller sections, and I needed to shoot up the ends so they're nice and tidy, because it's going to be relatively precise joinery that's going to be exposed on this occasion. Well, some of it will be. And I did find the number 5 on the ash quite hard, so because I'm faffing around and this isn't what anybody with half a brain would do, I bought a cheap Clifton 5.5 that was doing the rounds on a forum, that was sold alongside a low angle jack. And on the shoot board, certainly the weight of the Clifton pushes through, and also the low angle jack is quite nice on the shoot board as well. I've got just a standard Bailey 5.5, and it would do equally as well. As you've got number 6 and number 7, but I did find the number 5 a bit bouncy. The ash is 15mm thick. Ash is quite hard across the end grain. Again, you see the shavings there. I don't want to take endlessly thin shavings. I do want to get the job done, but that extra mass was certainly welcome. And the record 040 plough, what a daddy. I cut one board and it bowed quite severely in its length, so I had to cut it up into smaller sections because I was never going to flatten it. And what that meant was that I had to come along and put the grooves in afterwards. Now, if you're relying on putting those grooves in with a table saw or something of that nature, you've got a safety concern there where you're going to have to create jigs, and I really don't like the idea of putting things over the top of a saw blade at work. That's just a no-no. We don't do it. But with a plough plane, fantastic. It's just no stress at all, no risk to your fingers. It only takes a moment on a project like this. And if you saw some of those YouTube shorts I've put up, with that plough plane, because it's so small and so well suited to small work and furniture making, You can just even use the plough plane on its side and move it that way because you're in total control and it doesn't detract from safety or its performance. It works just fine. So yeah, I've got to cut a few more things to length and then have a good tidy up, and then I'm into some joinery. Like we all know, if it's a project that we're doing in our own time, it takes time, and that's just the way it is. But that's the progress on the bench. And so to sum up, again, thank you, Peter, and also thanks to anyone that's tuning in and watching this stuff. On the blog recently, I've put out that I've been learning how to do some CAD drawing, and there's an amusingly titled Mango Jelly Solutions on YouTube, and I've been following along with him, and I've decided to support him via Patreon because I feel that the quality of the information he's putting out is just exceptional. It allowed me to do just follow this free drawing system with his free lessons, and it's going to enable me to do drawings of things that I want to share in a really open source and no cost way. And it's like, well, he's put that information out there, and I felt his instruction was excellent. So if you're looking to get into a bit of CAD, I really recommend looking at that. I know a lot of woodworkers, SketchUp is quite popular, but when I looked into it, I think if you're honest about what you're using it for, if you do want to share stuff, and maybe in the long term, say if I do some other plans, who knows if I even want to sell them, I have to be honest about that and think, well, then that's a professional license, there's a fee associated with it. And I thought, I want to learn on a platform that I can stick with. And ultimately, from my impression, there's 4 woodworking joints for solid woodworking that you'll need to master. That's edge jointing, so just increasing the width of a board. Classic one is just a glue joint, and then you've got all the variations away from that. Tone groove joints, half lappy, rebates, whatever. Then you've got your dovetails, all the variations of those. We're all aware of that, through, half lap, mitered, and most of the time it's just going to be 2, your through and your half laps. That's going to be 99% of it. Then you've got your mortise and tenon joints. There's going to be those and the variations of those, and then your housing joints. And with those 4, you can kind of do anything. And for me, at that point, plans really are more a case of, well, that's the overall size. I like the look of the proportions. I can now visualize how the components come together because I learned the joinery. Just go ahead and make it. But I know a few people might want a bit more support, so hence why I want to learn some of the CAD. But yeah, I also looked back at some of the early stuff I did on the channel. Yeah, and it's come a little way. It's still pretty sketchy here with all the lights set up, but I'm enjoying it, and yeah, hopefully more to come. See you soon.